Hi everyone, I'm Angela and welcome to Crafting with Angela. This is your new go-to place for all things paper crafting. Whether you've been crafting for a while now or are just starting out, you'll find a variety of tips, tutorials and inspiration here. Today I'm going to show you another 5 fun and easy folding techniques that will make interesting and exciting card bases. The first card is a double easel card. For this card, I start with an A4 piece of card and cut it down to 8¼ inches on the long side so that it's 8¼ inches square on both sides. I'll score the card at 4 1/8 inch on each side. Then I'll cut down one of the score lines to the centre of the card on one side only. I want to remove that score line, which means cutting down both sides of the score line. Then I'll fold these smaller squares diagonally to the side. I want to line the fold up with the score line, not the side of the card, as it will line up properly as we've removed the score line, so it's not exactly square. Then I'll fold the remaining score lines using a bone folder to reinforce the folds. This then creates 2 triangular easels that sit up once the card is opened. Remember that you'll need to add something raised on the base of each side to hold the easels in place. This card folds up into 4½ inches square and will fit into any square envelope that's at least 4½ inches. Here is a double easel card that I've already decorated. I added patterned paper to the base and the easels and included 2 sentiments which are stuck only onto the lower portion of the easels so that they stick up. I've added 2 die cut butterflies on foam tape to act as the easel anchor points on each side. The second card is the gatefold zigzag card. For this card, I start with an A4 piece of card. I'll score the card at 2 inches, 3 7/8 inches, 7 13/16 inches, and 9 11/16 inches on the long side. And I'll make a mark at 3 inches on each short side from the base. Next, I'll draw a line from the innermost fold line to the 3-inch mark on that side. I'll cut those triangles out. Next, I'm going to fold along the score lines. I'll fold the inner score lines to the center of the card and the outer score lines to the outside of the card. Then I'll reinforce the folds with my bone folder. This card folds down to 4 inches by 8¼ inches and should fit into a standard DL envelope. Here's a gatefold zigzag card that I've already decorated. I've used 2 contrasting pattern papers and covered all of the sides except the back of the card. This leaves somewhere to write your greeting, especially if you don't want it to be visible. I've stamped the sentiment onto the lower section on the inside so that it's hidden by the folding sections, and added a flower cluster to the left hand side of the fold to hold the card closed. The third card is a tri-shutter card. For the tri-shutter card, I start with an A4 piece of card, and I'm going to score along the long side at 2 inches, 4 inches, 7 13/16 inches and 9 13/16 inches. I'll also make a mark on the first fold line on either end of the short side at 2 inches and 6¼ inches. Now I want to cut between these marks. I find it easiest to use a knife and ruler to cut. I've added some pencil marks here to make it easier to see exactly where you want to cut, but you don't need to do that at home. I like to make sure that the card's been cut through properly before moving the ruler, as it's difficult to realign it again. Now I'm going to fold along the score lines. When the card is cut, that means I have to reverse the fold. So for the outside score lines, they will be folded as one. For the other score lines, if the top part is folded into a mountain, the centre piece will be a valley and the lower piece will be a mountain again. I had to move the fold lines around slightly before I reinforced them to make sure that everything lined up. This card will fold down and fit into a DL envelope. Here's a tri-shutter card that I've decorated. I've only decorated the front of the card, but I've used one paper for the outside zigzag and another paper for the inside zigzag. I've then stuck various sentiments and embellishments onto the different parts of the zigzags. It's important to keep folding the card closed to see what it looks like when it's closed. The fourth card is a double stepper card. This card is similar to the tri-shutter card, but the score lines are at different dimensions on this card. This time I'm starting with an A5 piece of card. I'm making an initial scoreline at 4 1/8 inch along the long side. Then I'm marking at 1 1/2 inches and 4 3/8 inches along each short side, and I'm going to mark points at 3/4 inches and 6 1/4 inches along that line. This will mark where I cut with my knife and ruler. Once these cuts are made, I'm going to score along the long side at 3/4 inches, 1 1/2 inches, 2 7/8 inches, and 6 1/8 inches. The majority of the score lines will only be between the two cut lines, except for the score line we've already created at 4 1/8 inches. Now I'm going to fold the card. First I'm folding the outside folds, which causes the card to fold in half. Then I'll fold the lines between the cut lines as mountain, valley, mountain, valley, mountain. When you set the card up, you should see the step are set up in the middle. This card will fold down and fit into a C6 envelope. Here's a version of this card that I've decorated. I've added pattern paper to the steps and a sentiment that sticks up on the second step. I've also added some paper flowers to the first step and the outside edge of the card. You can write your greeting inside this card. The fifth card is an exploding diamond card. For this card, you want to start with a piece of card that is twice as long as it is wide. For me, that's 8 inches by 4 inches, as you can get it out of an A4 piece of card. I'm going to mark the card at 2 inches, 4 inches and 6 inches, and then score the 2 inches and 6 inch line only. What you want to do then is create score lines between the edge points of the card and the 4 inch lines. I tried to use my scoreboard for this and I found it really difficult to line it up. I've left this in just so you can see that it's not always straightforward making a card. Instead, I found it easier to use my ruler and bone folder. So you line your ruler up at 4 inch mark on the top of the card and the outer point on the bottom of the card, and use the bone folder to create the score line. I'll do this for each 4 points until I've created a diamond shape. Next, I want to reinforce the folds at 2 inches and 6 inches and the diagonal folds. To create the exploding diamond shape, you want to push down on the 2 inch fold line while pushing the diagonal fold lines up. When you have both sides down, it creates the diamond in the centre. The card will fold down to the size of the diamond and will fit into a 4 inch square envelope. Here's the version I've decorated. I've added pattern paper to the diamond and side triangles and a contrasting paper to the smaller triangles. I've also added a sentiment to the diamond. You can write your greeting on the back of the card. So now let's take a look at the 5 cards we've completed today.